Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. My name is George Binns, and I'm here with my co-host, Gail Burke, and we have as our guest tonight a gentleman who's starting his own newspaper, Lonnie Brennan. Glad you could join us. In case you haven't seen it around, this is what it looks like. So how long have you been running this paper?
Since May of 2014. So we're coming up to our 2-year anniversary in another month.
According to the masthead here, you're listed as Massachusetts politics without the liberal spin.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Does that mean that you're somewhere near Attila the Hun? Or how would you categorize your position?
My personal position of the paper, I'll give you both because I guess the paper ends up being an extension of anybody who works, on it and works with it. I guess non-liberal is the term, to use. People would call me conservative. I like to just try to think that just trying to be practical. I'm a kind of you can do anything in the world you want to do kind of person. Just don't put a gun to my head and force me to do it. Mm-hmm. Let's
good attitude.
Let each other, do what they want to. So
now, this is the Boston Broadside.
Yes.
And it's distributed all over the state.
Not all over the state. It's more like puddles here and there.
Okay.
We started out actually in May of 2014. I lugged 1,000 copies, if you can picture, me holding 1,000 copies up, to a rally on Beacon Hill for Justina Pelletier that Jeff Kuna was giving, and started handing them out before the rally because it was a lot of information about, basically about her case being taken by the state and by DCF and by Children's Hospital and taken away from her family and the struggle that they went through, which who could imagine it went on for 17 months. And we've chronicled it through many of the issues, through to her release and then beyond. And started off with 1,000 copies, handing out there, and then going around to various meetings and events, and next thing you know, there's got to be 20, 30 places in Salem and, a dozen or more in Beverly. It just keeps growing. Right now, there's 13 people, including myself, 14, I'm sorry, distributing the paper around the state, just various places, New Bedford to Rockport.
Well, one of the things I wanted to know is, how do you approach, let's say, a store that you want to have it
I'm terrible.
There.
I'm actually terrible asking anybody for anything. I am like the worst. We have a guy, Ken, he's spectacular. He walks in, hey, they're blah, 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 free paper. You guys interested in doing it? And 9 out of 10 times fine. Me, I'm kind of shy. Hi, I want to explain the paper to them. I'm into a half-hour conversation about it because that's the way that I am.
It's like running for election when you have to ask people for money, right?
Yeah, I don't like asking folks for anything, but what ends up happening is the first time it goes out, you might drop them off a dozen of papers or so. And then we ran out of papers. We ran out of papers.
That's good.
This has been like holding a tiger by the tail. I figured, we're doing 10,000 now, and I've been trying to keep it very, very, from that 1,000 to now, very, very slow because I was fearful of being like a rocket. You go up and you crash down. So we're trying to keep it sustaining itself and adjusting the print runs to match what we can do, and we're still constantly, almost always running short. But at the same time, we're still trying to expand. So it's like this month, we'd been every place around Ipswich, but not in Ipswich. So now we're going into Ipswich. And, we've been in Manchester and Rockport and Gloucester and, like I said, Athol. How did I get started in Athol or Northborough or Wilbraham, way out west in that part of state? We have subscribers now in 10 different states.
Wonderful.
I'm just blown away by that. And it's people who get it and send it to their friends. Or send it to, we have someone from Beverly, Du Bois, probably not pronouncing it correctly, but he sent one to his son, a subscription to his son down in South Carolina, and his son wrote a nice letter to the editor. We published at one point, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. It was just great.
Now, you're a monthly publication.
That's correct,
Do you have any thoughts of making it?
I would love to.
Like bi-weekly or weekly?
Yeah, I'd love to go to a weekly publication. Again, it's part of the, right now it kind of runs like a magazine, like a monthly magazine. I know it's in a newspaper format, but you have to think whatever you print is going to be old news. So what are you giving that's recapping important things that have happened? Like putting a picture of Reagan, Nancy Reagan on the front page
I saw that
for her death.
That was great.
and everybody knows about it because it happened a couple weeks before we went to press, but it was significant and important, so we put
Sure.
it there, you know.
Well, I'm
for distinction.
amazed because it seems to be packed full. It's almost like a collage, each page.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much news in it. You could spend, you know, an hour or two just going through it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it is. See, I look at it and I want it to be so much more because that's just
Sure.
me. I want to pack it
It's
in
your
more,
baby.
and I want and I want it to grow more, and I want to put more things in. And every month, there's so much that sits on the table that doesn't get in. You know, this column, that column,
Right.
this thing from this person. So I try to get the letters in whenever we get letters. I try to get those in because the whole point is to give voice to people who. Their letter's not going to get published by the Boston Globe, you know, unless it's
Hear
on
that,
some certain
George?
topic.
George
you know?
is perfect. George writes letters to the Salem News all the time.
Do they get in? Occasionally,
Sometimes,
yeah.
yeah.
I try to, you know, that we will carve out space for the readers, for the subscribers. But at the same time, there's a disclaimer in there that says there's a lot of liberal socialist publications in Massachusetts. This is not one of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you can get your stuff published there. You know,
Well, I think it's great because I listen to Jeff Cooner on the radio.
oh, cool.
And I think it's great that he writes a column for you.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, he started a couple months ago.
Yeah.
He was in February, not in March, back in April, and continuing, you know, forward from there. It was just we had a thing with elections and timing and things with March. So really, really happy to be able to have him as one of the writers.
Now,
on this
who
thing.
actually puts the whole paper together?
You mean who's on the computer?
You do the whole thing?
It's your nimble
Yeah.
thinkers that
Wow.
are doing it.
Yeah, it's me on the computers. I do graphics, so that's easy stuff, you know. So
Okay.
I think one of the things we ought to point out is, like you said, this is complimentary copies that you
correct.
drop off in lots of stores.
Yes.
And here in Beverly, you got a choice of the Beverly Train Depot, Beverly Stop and Shop, Food Store, Beverly Piazza, and Pizza on Rantoul Street, Boris, Cabot Cinema, Cabot Convenience, Cabot Street Box. Oh, you got a street box out there. That's easy.
Yeah, the one on we call one downtown and one uptown. The one by
Yeah,
the Dunkin' Donuts there in the Dunkin'
Cafe
Donuts.
Salerno,
I'm trying to think of the
Warmer
places.
Variety. There's a good 20 different locations around town.
They're even in
Yeah.
the farms.
Yeah.
Yes,
farms.
and
And the neat thing in the back is you can subscribe to this.
yeah, we say if you never want to miss an issue or if you want to support the paper, we greatly appreciate it, and that's how we're able to put copies out in the streets. And that list we put inside there, it's never terribly accurate. It seems like I'm always missing somebody's name, and the next month there's another place that adds. There's
Yeah.
another place that adds.
Oh, that's a good thing.
So I just did that to, oh gosh, I forget the name of the restaurant right now. It's down the Cape, and I forgot them. They were a new thing, and I missed them in March, got them in April.
Well, I
So-
saw a box
So,
on my way to Market Basket in Danvers.
Okay.
However,
uh-huh.
it's right on the road,
It's-
so it's not a convenient place to get out and
Yeah,
get it.
I know that box. It's actually at the bus station is what it is. There's a bus stop right there.
Okay.
That's across from the old
okay.
Sylvania, which is now
Right,
some medical
right,
place.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
GH,
bus
yeah.
stop. And when we put that there, it's been there for a while now. I think since nothing's long in this. It's only been less than 2 years.
Right.
But it was sometime in the fall, and it first went out it was just a few papers, and that's all that went out of it. And now you gotta check it every week or every couple of
Really?
weeks
Well,
because
that's good.
they're coming out, and you can see the pile going down. So yeah, I'm guessing people from the auto repair place walk across because it's just right across the little
Yeah.
green and grab something
And
and go.
people from the hospital
So-
probably too.
That could be.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have the best of distribution. You know, it's a small paper. This isn't the Boston Globe that has a couple hundred years history
Right.
on us and a couple 100,000 copies.
Yeah.
You know.
They didn't exactly
So-
have the best of distribution this
That's
past
right.
winter.
They had to change.
They changed
Yeah.
and they changed back and then
They
back
were trying
again.
to save some money and.
And they're still begging for people to
Yeah.
subscribe.
Well,
so.
actually, I replied to them after their little Donald Trump issue. I replied
really?
to them, and they sent me something, 75% off, and I said, after your Donald Trump episode, I think you need to offer it to me at 99% off. And even then, I'm not sure if I need the paper stock. I'm sorry, I was just so
Yeah, that was terrible.
something that.
Canary died, you don't need to cover the bottom. The canary died, you don't need to cover the bottom of the cage
Well,
anymore.
actually, that is true. That was many, many years ago. My daughter's canary. So and I don't think the dog needs it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So basically, from an editorial point of view, how
Right.
do you decide what goes into the paper?
I don't know. It seems kind of natural and easy. Things happen. You know, when you're at a party and there's a million people talking, and someone at the end, on the other side of the room, says your name, and you're not paying attention to anything, but someone said your name, and you look over. The news is a lot the same way. Stuff is going on, and there was a vote taken on Beacon Hill, and it's like, what? Sanctuary cities? What? SAFE Act? What does that mean? Oh, driver's license for illegals, magnet state for illegals. Wait a second, we were spending $2 billion for illegals, and now you want to spend more? I know compassion, but what's going on here? And
But you don't read it in the paper.
These things just kind of jump out, just like being in a room with a million people.
Yeah.
You get to
So it's
the
easy.
issue, like on the back page of this particular latest April version, and you've got a list of all of the members of the Joint Committee at the state
Right.
that are considering license for illegals, kind of thing.
Yep.
What makes you get into the advocacy side as opposed to strictly newspaper reporting or
Oh, I
editorialized?
think it's simple and easy. It's not. I don't think it's meant to be editorializing or advocacy as much as I take it as being enabling. In other words, you watch Channel 4 and they cover a story, and boom, and it's gone. And now there's 6 stories after that, and you're like, what was that story? And it was only 3 seconds, and you forget to go back and read about it. You read something in a newspaper, and they cover some story and something horrific happened, and there's so much that's missing. Well, how did that happen? How did they find out? What went on? It's kind of missing. You see something, oh, they're going to pass a bill, or the bill before committee, and they're talking about doing such and such. Well, okay, but what next? So we go the next step on a lot of these. It's happened many times on many of these key issues. We'll say, okay, and if you care about it, here's the people that are going to be voting on it. Make your opinion, you know? Yes, no, support them. Go. I mean, if you really like that, not only is here their name, here's their office number, here's their email address. Whatever you feel comfortable with, there's the information for you. You don't have to look at 400 elected officials and try to figure out, well, who's where, and who's what. Here's the 12, or here's the 6.
Well,
Let them know what
I
you
know
think.
that you distribute
So,
to the State House as well.
Every single
with
room
one
except for
exception.
155.
Okay,
I
what's the
saw that and I
significance of
laughed.
155?
Oh, there is a, you know what? I want to find the article
What's
on
her
it because
name?
we actually wrote it up. Oh, here it is here. This is the Christmas edition, December 2015. And the little graphic there, oh, that doesn't play to cameras. Keep calm and let them eat cake. And what it is room 155. I'll hold it out there. I'm not sure if that helps you guys at all. But you can tell I have the face for radio, as I said, not for TV. I'm better behind the keyboard typing. But room 55 is Rep. Marjorie Decker of Cambridge, and a great example why the rest of the country laughs at Massachusetts is what the headline says. And Ted Tripp wrote an interesting kind of funny article about walking around the State House and handing out the papers to everyone. And even the people who you know, they're not friendly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're not friendly to this. They'll at least be cordial and take it.
Yeah.
She wasn't. And you could read the rest about it. So he says, well, if someone's going to be that way, he told me what she basically did and banned him from, distributing information. Because I'll read papers. I mean, the worst stuff in the world. I mean, I want to know what the other side's thinking.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I'm going to learn something through any dialogue I have with anybody. I'm going to learn something. They might not convince me, but I'm at least going to come to a better understanding where they are. So he says, well, I wonder what her record is like, and started going through her voting record and what it is she advocates. And that's on the website, and people can kind of see. So she's infamous as being one of the,
I
Byron
thought
Rushing,
that was funny.
Byron Rushing trying to make Massachusetts a magnet for illegal aliens.
Right.
Well,
One other
she's one of the
page I
similar
saw
kind of people.
in here was you have a whole list of all the talk radio shows, which I
Yes.
thought was great because George and I attend a Monday morning current events group at the Senior Center. I take a lot of grief because I listen to talk radio a lot. And some of these people I never heard of. And I thought, this is great because I listen to Jeff Kohner, I listen to Rush Limbaugh, I listen to Sean Hannity, and those kind of people. And here you've got a whole bunch of people that some of them I've heard of, but I've never listened to their show.
Okay.
So I think this is great.
I actually, this varies. If you go back through some of the older editions, you'll see that we have, sometimes it's 6 of them, sometimes there's got to be a dozen of them sitting in there. I'm just wondering, but it's always on the bottom of page 2.
Okay.
So this one here, we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, and big blow-up pictures of them and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But
No, this is great.
let me see. This guy here you would absolutely love. Nobody knows him. Don McCaig. He's on WXTK 95.1 down the Cape from 11 to
okay.
1. And I stumbled on him on the internet one time, WXTK, whatever, because XTK would play, I forget what they were doing. Maybe they were doing Laura Ingraham at the time or something. But phenomenal show. A retired school teacher, former Democrat, who just said, pretty much like Reagan, party left me, I'm an independent and that's it, and this is why, and he does a nice political show, and he puts a lot of humor into it too. So it's a nice one that nobody would probably pick up because he's just a short, just
Yeah.
Saturdays only kind of show.
Well, I think each
So-
page that I've gone through, I see a camp constitution here
Yep.
where families can go away to camp and learn about the Constitution. And then you have another one that, what is the name of it? It's, I wrote it down here someplace. Oh, the U.S. Constitution Decoded, where it actually gives lessons. You can go on and get lessons on decoding the Constitution so that everybody can understand it. And it's free. It's right online. You don't have to pay for
That's
it.
Catherine White. She's had
I
a
thought
small
that
business
was
card size
fabulous.
item there since
Yeah.
the beginning, yeah.
So, I mean, your paper is chock full of all kinds of interesting
The one that caught
information.
my attention is this article on page 5
Oh,
about the Mass
I'm
House
sorry, they can't
Committee
see it, so.
on Global Warming fights the scourge of climate change to prevent catastrophic sea level rise. And this is a nice long article talking about the chairman of the committee. And it ends up with a
a wanted poster.
poster from, something you would see in an old Wild West movie.
Yep.
And it turns out the chairman of the committee has been saving the state by not passing any laws. In fact, he's been saving the state by not even having any meetings, but he has been collecting his $7,500 a year stipend for being the chairman of the committee. And
Smizik.
the thing about it, going through this particular issue, you see things in there that you won't see in the Globe, you won't see in the New York Times or any of these other
Or on Fox.
main media. Well, Fox either. Well, you get to something like the New York Times or Fox, they're looking at the big picture. Unless somebody in the state got shot, they won't cover it.
Yeah.
But you get into the local papers like the Salem News that we get around here, or the Boston Globe, and their position seems to be addressing the majority of the state, which seem to be the liberal Democrats, and that's all they talk about.
Yeah.
And once in a while, they'll throw in a token editorial or a comment about, oh, you don't agree with me, but I got to give the editor of the Salem News credit. He's becoming a little more centrist from where
No,
he used
I
to
do
be.
agree with you on that.
Okay, you do agree?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. His name's David Olson, so.
Well, we've tried to get Dave Olson on our show, and he won't come. One time he sent Nelson Benton,
Right,
who
yeah.
was, do you
I grew up
remember
in
Nelson?
Salem, so
Oh, okay. All right.
this is the 8th newspaper I've worked on, the only one that's cost me money. I mean, if you count college,
Okay.
newspaper. I strung for about a year down there, way back when after college.
Nelson came on the
I
show.
did news reporting. Not news reporting, I'm sorry. I did sports reporting there.
And he
Bill
wasn't
Kaporis.
happy.
Okay.
He wasn't,
Really? Why
He
not?
wasn't happy when he left. He didn't like our
Well,
questions.
give you an example. We had Seth Moulton on one night, and
Sorry.
Elliot and Gail did the interviewing,
Yeah.
and he gets off the little stage we're on here, and he says, geez, it's just like Fox News.
Good.
He didn't like our questions either.
And we've had Jerry Paracella, who's the local
Yeah, I
rep,
know.
on here, and the introduction, well, welcome to Fox News Light.
Oh, cool.
But Jerry comes back.
Right.
He
No,
does come
I
back.
believe I saw from your YouTube that he's been here a few times.
Yeah.
My thing is that this going back to this wanted poster for this one person, the individual picture of Decker and stuff, we're trying to bring it personal.
Yeah.
Because all politics is personal and it is local. And you say, the legislator does this, and then you vote for Jerry Parasara. I mean, he's never going to have an opponent, doesn't have an opponent. Everybody likes him. You look at his voting record. I'll make it a point to print his voting record in here sometime. You're going to be blown away.
Yeah,
you're not going to be
looked at
terribly
it.
happy.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure you're not going to be terribly happy. But he'll bring home a little bacon and get some nice articles in Salem News about, hey, look what I got. And meanwhile, it's like when they build gazebos and golf courses with our tax money, and meanwhile the schools are holding bake sales. It's convoluted. So for that position there, we actually I want to tell you about that article, because you asked. It kind of goes back to when you said, how do you decide what goes in the paper? So I was talking to Ted, and he goes, we were talking about the global climate warming thing there. The committee that they had established, and he says it was his idea. He said, I'm going to look into this and see what they've been doing. I'm like, great, go for it, sounds great. And he went to it, he goes, they haven't even met. I goes, wow, that's a great story. He goes, what do you mean? They haven't met? I goes, they haven't met. He's like, they haven't met. I goes, they haven't met. He goes, they haven't met. You're right. This is great. He goes, I got to find out how much the chair makes. And he gets the chair salary, and it's like, we've got an article. Now, how do you do that? Well, they're coming on, they're going to save the planet, save the whales. And so the article is all about him taking the money and not even holding meetings. And that's such an affront to the taxpayers. I mean, if you can do it at that level and that brazenly, not even meetings. And now we need to find out who the vice chair, what the vice chair got for that period of time also. So it says wanted $30,000 returned to the taxpayers reward for serving so long and not holding any meetings, not having no bills, no recommendations, no minutes, no nothing. It's because we can only go back so many years. If we can manage to go back further, it's probably more close to $45,000, $50,000 that has just been.
Well, didn't the state legislature have a big flap a couple of years ago about people who would be on the state payroll and not showing up for work?
Oh yeah, this is such a target-rich environment, I think, is the way that Howie Carr would refer to it, talk show host. It's really target-rich. If I had the time, almost every vote they take, almost every subcommittee that they have is almost always an affront to the taxpayer. I hate to say it that way, but it just seems to be.
Well, I think most of us realize that it is.
Yeah.
The problem is that we don't get articles like this very often, so that you can't pinpoint it and say, look, this is what's happening here.
Was it the Herald or was it Fox that came out with a wonderful one? I wish we had it. It was the MBTA. I forget the guy's position, but his position paid $85,000 a year. And he was allowed to do unlimited overtime on the MBTA, and he made $315,000 that year, which I think was an average of 7.25 hours overtime per day. Really? I couldn't physically do that, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm old.
I don't think anyone could.
Do a double shift every single, $315,000, working, and it was, like a track operator or an engineer or whatever it happened to be. It was nothing.
One thing I wanted to ask you, when you're distributing these papers, do you ever have any vandalism or have the papers taken? Because, I mean, that happens with all kinds of political stuff.
It happens in two locations, particularly two train stations. Should I mention them? I probably shouldn't give them away. The one down in Reading was difficult for a while. Somebody took all the papers one month, crumpled them up, and filled the inside of the box with crumpled papers. We saw it the next week because we was watching it every week. Then we just started, putting a small amount in every couple of days, and I think the people finally got tired of that. Oh, they filled it with junk and debris and trash and bottles and all that kind of stuff. So,
wouldn't you love to catch the people who are doing it?
I thought about getting a little wireless camera and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, I don't have time for this.
I know.
And we had one down during the election season for the state rep candidates, or not state rep, state committee candidates, down in Lakeville. It's a Lakeville Middleborough train station where 100 papers are in there. The next day, 100 papers are gone. You know, and Julie asked me, what do you want to do? I goes, that's why I gave you extra papers down there. Just every day put a few in and
Yeah.
just see where it goes. Now it's trickled off. I mean,
get tired of it,
you see
yeah.
it going down
Yeah.
slowly.
Well,
They're not
that's
taking
good.
them and chucking them or
Yeah.
whatever. So stores, it varies. There's some stores that we have the paper in, and you might get rid of, 10 papers. Others, you're going to get rid of 300.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm thinking Steve's Quality Market down in Salem, Dot and Ray's down in Salem. There's some place, a lunch place, breakfast lunch place. Some places where it's very popular. Some places where I get calls, where's the paper? We haven't seen the paper this month. Well, we had the election. We said we're going to be late. So people have kind of gotten used to it, but we can only put so many out in the street. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's
Do what we
okay.
can.
We're kind of running out of time. We have about 2.5 more minutes. So is there anything that you would like to say to the audience to,
Besides send money and
Yeah.
subscribe.
No, I'm going to say send info and send what
Say-
you
okay.
want to. I'm used to being poor. I'm independently poor, okay? I got 3 kids. Only one's left in college now. So great, she's going to nursing school. So
Now, where would they send it?
it's P.O. Box 4200, Peabody, Mass. 01961.
Okay.
So P.O. Box 4200, Peabody, Mass. Phone number is 978-352-6800.
Okay.
And
Well, if they went to one of these
BostonBroadside.com.
stores and found a copy of this, where would they find the address that?
The back page always has an address form on it. It always
Okay.
has a description
Okay.
form.
Well,
It
there
might
it is,
look a
right
little
the-
different sometimes, but the back
Okay.
left corner of the paper always has a description form on it. But I get
Well, that's what they're looking for.
Okay.
letters in the mail. I get emails. I get phone calls sometimes.
And you will publish letters?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, unless it's some crazy socialist, whatever,
Right,
that fits the
right,
Boston
yeah,
Globe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Then it's like, why? You have 200 other publications in Massachusetts. Leave this little one alone, okay?
Yes, yeah.
They'll print it.
Okay.
We don't need it.
And it's $30 a year for a subscription?
That is correct. Yes.
That's good.
We come out monthly. We hope we can move better and faster and bigger. We'll work on it. What's neat that people like in here, and this is what I want to know from the readers, and people that are interested in it is, we'll print the Ann Coulter column and the Pat Buchanan and Michelle Malkin and Jeff Cooner. I mean,
Okay.
Jeff Cooner's on our front page.
Okay.
He just started writing a couple months ago, and his columns, if you like listening to Jeff on the radio, you're going to love reading him.
Okay. And I
it's so
think
cool.
on that, we're going to end the show, and
Thank
we want
you.
to thank you for being on the show,
I'm
Lonnie.
honored. This is
Yeah.
spectacular, to have a chance to.
Well, this is
meet
great,
you
and we'd love to have you come back.
Okay, well, I'm not sure but that you want to listen to me babble again because I'll go on for hours, but thank you so much.
Okay,
This is
and
great.
like I say, we would love to have you come back. But thank you for giving us, and the papers are terrific, and we will make sure that we have these distributed, and we want to thank the audience for watching. We hope you have enjoyed hearing about this Boston Broadside. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Good night.